Hey everyone, Sari here, and welcome back to another week of Astro Season offense matches. It's been a very long time since I put Altina on my offense teams. While I do like her a lot, she's been annoyingly hard to merge, and can have a hard time Vantage sweeping these days, especially without a Winter Bernadetta to help enable it. I did get a few more merges for her from the Medeus banner though, and decided that +7 was enough to bring her back off the bench for her bonus week. She's mostly sticking to her base kit, while something like Attack Res Catch would be an excellent fit for her, at least until her remix. Losing out on the Iot's effect is pretty important when I don't have an easy way to get her into Vantage range. Attack Res solo rounds out her bulk really nicely, and having it active at any health level gives her a lot of flexibility when picking her fights. The Speed Def Rain is a bit of an oddball, and is mostly here since I just don't have any spares of the attack defense version. Not lowering attack can actually work in her favor though, since it gives her a slightly easier time baiting opponents away from using their assists. It also works really well when using her in a safe ball formation. I converted Yuri to be a more dedicated support this week. The extra health he gets from his native duel skill can be helpful for letting him dodge tactic runes and hex traps, while the attack opening gives Altina cross-map access to the buff. Foul Play is an invaluable movement tool too, especially paired with his extra movement and Canto. Ninion's a new face to the team and happens to be an extremely powerful support for Altina. Being able to donate a full breath effect to Altina gives her a lot more options when using Twin Blades, letting her activate them really easily in both the player and enemy phases. Cross Spur is a great way to help boost Altina's damage from a safe spot on the map, while Pulse Tie and Panic Play are good ways to defuse any major threats. Thor's support is a bit redundant with Ninian on the team. She's mostly here for the sabotage and backup support in case Ninian needs to dance someone else. The extra attack she can provide is pretty significant too, giving Altina enough firepower to punch through some really bulky opponents. Asher is a great fit for the team thematically, and the panic immunity she offers is a nice way to take one more nuisance off the table for Altina. The sabotage also does a lot of work, helping Altina to safely tank a hit or two before getting into the Vantage range. Elmine's a good way to round things out, specifically to deny Catria setups that might be able to overwhelm Altina before she can safely sweep. Now that we've gone over the team, let's get to the first match. This match will be a fun way to start the week. I've started seeing more cav lines lately. I think it's just an answer to try and put pressure on safe balls and hopefully pick off something that they can't reach, while also being a little bit more Elmine-proof than other strategies are. And this one can be pretty spooky. They have two dancers, so even if you do bring an isolation, you can't hit both of them. And all four of these ranged calves are very menacing, especially this bonus week Lilina. The free desperation that Wolf gets, especially combined with a well-speed defense, also makes him a pretty legitimate menace, and he can get a glimmer off pretty easily as well against quite a few opponents. While, of course, the Leaf and the other side of things and the Lysithea are both very high-threat colorless units. The Zeros in the corner actually has a pretty hard time reaching anything, even if you end up baiting Lilina and she gets danced. She can't actually get danced a second time thanks to the Spolt Tower unless someone gets in Wings of Mercy range. I'm not actually expecting to have too many problems with this. We should have a pretty straightforward time of it overall. And for this first turn at least, I don't think Altina's actually going to Vantage anything down. So we'll get things started right away here, and I don't think I actually need to disable this gifted magic, but we're going to play it safe and make sure that we don't have to worry about it. We'll just move Altina up this way and break another structure, then nudge her forwards onto the trap, which is real. That's good to find. Then we'll just move Yuri here and open up things a little bit more for the following turn. Move Asher and Ninian over and out of harm's way. I think Wolf actually ends up being the first one to attack, since he does get to hit twice, but Altina beats him on the Heavy Blade check, so he doesn't get a Glimmer, and he can't survive that counterattack. And while Lilina does get to use her built-in Hardy Bearing to take one shot at Altina, and that's all she gets to do. And from here, Ceres gets danced, but nothing else gets to reach us. They didn't actually end up moving as far forward as I was expecting them to, but that's okay. We are going to take things a little bit slowly here. I don't want to end this match before we reach the pot in the top right, so we're just going to be careful here. Moving Altina down and then dancing her forwards reapplies that attack buff for her. And since Lysithea doesn't have a rally, but still has an assist, both of the Mirabilis should move before her, and we should never have to worry about her reaching anything this turn. Plus, there's a good chance we can actually bait her down this left side by just opening up that first Aether pot before we say go. Cirrus moves in first, and well, it's kind of funny to see Altina being able to quad somebody.
By these twin blades.
And, well, Leaf doesn't survive the first hit, so the miracle doesn't get to save him.
Grant me strength.
Yep, and then the Mirabilis just move in, and don't get anything done. In this turn, we should be able to close things out if we get a little bit creative about reaching this Aether pot.
I will go.
Healing Altina doesn't actually take her out of Vantage range here, so we can nudge her forwards. And then we'll have Thor reposition Yuri, who disarms a trap for us and can pick up this second Aether pot. Then we'll move him back and dance Thor, who can pull him back out of range of the Mirabilis, and then we'll let Altina go and demolish the first one. And she should have no problems vantaging her way through the rest of this on the enemy phase.
Yes.
Asher is very proud. Yep. Mirabilis moves in and, well, doesn't get to attack. And Lysithea meets exactly the same fate. Those quads don't quite help her when she doesn't get a chance to use them. That was a fun first match. Let's see what we get next. This match is actually going to be kind of similar to the last one, just with a legendary leaf instead of a harmonic one. He's out of season, so he misses out on a lot of extra stats from these three mythics. And sadly, the Duma is not sporting his freshly remixed kit, which means he actually ends up missing their structures here instead of picking off the healing tower like he would with the upgraded upheaval. And they've also got a bonus weak Lilinas and a harmonic Lysithea backing Leaf up for the threats of the team. Wings of Light does help make Leaf a little bit scarier, but even with that, he doesn't really have as much kick as he should. I'm looking forward to seeing what he gets for his remix. The Azura does help quite a bit for getting her team into attack the same target in one turn, even if they start out of range of these cavalry units. Although she's usually going to end up dancing Leaf, since he's the only one without an assist on this team. I'm not really expecting to have issues here. We should be able to close this out pretty cleanly. Although I do need to make sure that we're not going to have Altina get attacked by Lysithea specifically before she gets into Vantage range, since Lysithea would get to quad her and that would probably be enough to knock her out. So instead we're just going to have Altina break her way through this tactic room and dance her. And let Thor reposition her forwards and plant her right here. And we found the real trap. Nice. And from there we'll just start moving everybody in behind to keep them out of the threat range and eventually work our way towards these Aether pots. Leaf can't actually do any damage. Alina's got quite a bit of defense in her bonus week.
Grant me strength.
And Lilina, well, she'll get to do a chunk, but she's not going to do enough. Well, not enough to finish Altina off, but enough to put her into Vantage range. Which is not going to end well for the rest of her team. Leaf gets danced in, and well,
Grant me strength.
this is not ending well for him. Then everybody just shuffles forwards. And here we really just want to make sure that we don't end the match too quickly and get a chance to reach these Aether pots. So we'll plunk Altina here and let her handle Lysithea and Azura, while we kite Duma and Cirrus around.
I seek a foe.
And we'll just move Elamine up here and get her towards this Aether pot
I won't disappoint.
next turn. And Yuri can just get ready to pick this one up.
There is but one future.
Zera's not remixed either, so doesn't even have a triangle adept to try and help survive this. Not that it would help here. And once Duma moves out of the way, Lysithea's quads don't get a chance to fire.
By these twin blades.
And then Zera's can't reach us either.
This'll
We're
be
going to
fun.
need to take one more turn before we reach this second Aether pot, unfortunately. But that's
Consider
not
it
such a
done.
big deal. We'll just let Altina move in and player phase the Zeros without dragon slaying.
Grant me strength.
Just for
They
fun.
will submit.
And we'll move out of the way of Duma
With utter
and get ready
certainty.
to close out the match next turn. Even with Duma trying to be rude and intercept us before we reach
I
this
won't
pot,
disappoint.
Yuri can snag it for us,
I
and then
seek
we'll
a
just
foe.
move Thor forwards
You
and
have
let
my
Altina
trust.
close out the match. That's pretty clean. Let's see what we get next. This match is going to be a bit of an interesting one. I haven't seen too many teams with quite this much investment on them, and they've got a lot on their team with the very impressive, recently refined Idun in the back as a near-save tank, and a +10 Brave Edelgard as their far-save tank of choice, along with a +10 Ceros in the back to mostly pad up the stats and offer Rings of Light to this +10 Leaf. The Winter Rapier is actually a really good pick for him, especially into the team I'm using with a sabotage attack and defense, so he gets full value out of this, and with it fully online, he can actually do quite a lot of damage and be extremely bulky in the bargain, especially with Deadly Balance helping to boost those stats just a little bit more. They've also got the first Canto Control Gatekeeper I've seen in the wild, other than my own. He's very impressive, and I'm looking forward to getting the last few merges for mine at some point. For the most part, this is a bit of a stall ball with save armors in the corner and a lot of rallies and harsh commands just to keep things in place. But they do mix it up a little bit and have some high threat damage dealers, including this Lysithea and this New Year's Stalker. I think we're going to need several turns to work our way through this, but I think Altina should be able to pull through this in the end. I'm actually going to go ahead and get this started right away. I'm going to just dance Altina forward onto the split trap and see if it's real.
With utter certainty.
Even if it's not, stopping here means that Leaf is the one who's going to move in to attack her, and he should do a very good job of setting her directly into Vantage range for us.
Where to, friend?
And we'll also swap Elamine forwards here. Leave Yuri in the corner, he can start breaking structures next turn. We'll leave Elamine here just to be extra sure about things, and say go. Leaf should get rallied and then move into attack here. And he can hit pretty reasonably hard,
No backing down.
but not hard enough. Guess we really didn't need the Elamine safety net. And everyone just starts moving forwards.
With
And
utter
actually
certainty.
we get a very easy knockout on this Dogger.
God is
I wasn't
guiding me.
sure who was going to end up right in front of Altina. It was either Dogger or Lysithea. But
Yes.
Dogger being there just means that we don't have to worry about that harsh command.
You
And we'll
have
just
my
move
trust.
Altina up here and break our way towards this first Aether pot.
Yes.
I seek a foe.
And have Yuri start opening our way towards the next one. We might only get Lysithea here. Ceres is going to stay in the corner. Yep, all the rallies come through. But Lysithea doesn't actually get to attack us thanks to Vantage, so we don't have to worry too much about her. And here we're actually going to let Altina carve her way directly through this Idune. Getting to neutralize the damage reduction she gets against that first hit does a lot of work. And then we'll just have Ninian dance her, and take Gatekeeper out of the picture as well. And now that their threats are pretty limited in range, we can have Yuri carve his way through this and find that magic trap.
Speak.
And then we'll just move everybody a little further forward. And let Altina enemy phase the Edelgard. Even with the attack res solo part of her cut-off line, she's not going to have any problems here. And then we can clean things up by letting Yuri pick up the Aether Fountain. And we'll just move her forwards and let Altina get one more Twin Blades to close out the match.
No backing down.
This map is going to be a bit of an easier one, I think. They've got a less terribly threatening layout, although it is fun to see a freshly remixed Duma on their team. This remixed upheaval is actually a really powerful effect as long as he doesn't get Elemined, since it can seek out the closest structure instead of being locked to the column that he's in. And even if you do bring an Elemind to counter him, it does force you to actually false start him on the first turn, which could open up something else to not get false started instead. They've also got a really impressive Forma Micaiah on their team. I'm not usually too big of a fan of Menace skills, but it really works well with her weapon by turning it all the way online, although you might not need to be using Yune's Whispers at the same time with that equipped. Together with Tiki though, it does offer her a pretty consistent access to a full spectrum of buffs, and this Lilith on the side can be a lot more threatening than you might expect at first, since she's pretty likely to get danced by Ninian, and then be able to move 3 spaces instead of 2 after that. And she does hit pretty hard with this dive bomb. Not really expecting Altina to have too many problems here though, and this bolt tower actually offers us a very convenient way to get into Vantage range. So we're just going to take the first couple of turns to set things up and get ready to move in and sweep. It does feel a little funny to be working with an enemy bolt tower's turn.
There is but one future.
But that's okay.
You have my trust.
We can also get ready to test this bolt trap and potentially move in next turn instead. Since, thanks to Upheaval, we only need a 10 damage trap, or 20 now that she's been healed,
I am the answer.
to activate Vantage for us. And even though we did find that trap, we're actually going to take one more turn here just so we can panic Tiki instead of letting her get these defenses online. Since she is really bulky, especially with her weapon effect, and shutting down those visible bonuses will make her a lot easier for Altina to take out. So we'll just dance Ash right over, move Yuri this way too, and have her reposition Alamine and shut down this Menace as well for the next turn. And from here we'll get things going. We'll just move Altina down and dance her, and then let Thor reposition her forwards and have her move all the way here to plonk in front of Tiki. Or I guess we could just attack into her and knock her out. That works too.
Grant me strength.
And then we'll just nudge Thor forwards and give Altina a little bit more attack and defense to work with. And we'll move Yuri over to start working his way towards this Aether pot on the other side.
I am the answer.
And thanks to the Bolt Tower, Ashra is not going to have any problems Vantage sweeping her way through the rest of their team.
By these twin blades.
Poor Lilith. She's, not having a good time with that dive bomb. And then Ninian moves in last, and, well, she's also not having a good time with this.
No backing down.
And we're out of range of Duma, so that gives us an easy time reaching this Aether pot and closing out the match. We'll just have to move Yuri over one tile before we dance him.
I will go.
And then nudge him forwards.
I won't
Let him grab our Aether pot.
By your will.
And move
With
Thor in
utter
and
certainty.
have Altina close out the match.
Huh. Grant me strength.
This match should be a funny one. They've got a pretty interesting Catria ball set up here, and they do a pretty good job of trying to divert Helmine away from the Catria herself, thanks to the Times Pulse from Crom and the Infantry Pulse from Ceres, which enables the Sublime Heaven and Deadeye for these two in the backline. And one of the fun traps here is that even if you do false start this Catria, the Phantom Res on Mirabilis gives her a fighting chance of dodging that, and giving ground orders to continue mobilizing Crom and Byleth, and letting them reach these defense tiles. They also have two save armors on the front line, with Rhea as their near saver and Idun as their far saver. I actually haven't seen Rhea on the defense yet, so it's fun to see her here, and I do think she can actually do a lot of work. Even if her weapon doesn't seem quite as stacked as Fallen Edelgard's, first, getting almost a free Luna on every swing is very strong. And of course, 60% damage reduction as long as she's meeting this res check does a lot of work too. This Ceres build is interesting. I think she'd be better off using a res forge on this Dark Breath instead of attack, just to help beat Elemine checks on that first turn. But it is fun to see her used as an infantry pulse support. With all that said, we are going to be a degenerate Elemine user here. Actually ended up having a couple of ideas for how to approach this. The first thought was just to have Ashra break her way in here after we pick up pots and take out Ceres and then Byleth and enemy phase the rest. But we can take a more styling approach and just let her tank this Byleth twice. We're just going to take this first turn to start setting up. I'd like to make sure that we do disable this infantry pulse on the first turn and then Catria's order buff for the second turn. I'm actually a little less worried about the triangle attacks than the orders buff for Idun, since I'd like to make sure she doesn't make it onto a defense tile when she attacks Altina. I'll just move Ashra over,
I will go.
nudge Yuri,
This will be fun.
and start opening things up back here. That's the real heavy trap.
They will
Good to know.
submit.
And I'm actually going to need to take one more turn here, because I forgot to make sure Thor would be able to soak this Dark Shrine again for this turn. So I'll just swap her down here and get an Elemine buff for next turn,
Yes.
and just wait one more round. There's no hurry, this map doesn't start moving until you engage it, so...
Where
And
to,
from here
friend?
we'll get things going. Mira's just going to move Thor up here so she can
With
get ready
utter
to
certainty. Why?
donate some extra attack buffs to Altina for this round.
By
And
your
we'll just
will.
move her up here to break this pot,
You have
and
my
have
trust.
Altina move up here and wait in place.
I
And
am
we'll just
the
move
answer.
Ashra and
Speak.
Elemine over, and say go. Byleth should take the first couple of attacks here, since Altina can't counterattack him. But this first round of combat doesn't actually get anything done. And the second one shouldn't get too much done either. Although, I think the Sublime Heaven will do some damage here.
You cannot stop the flow of time.
A little bit. Idun should be able to finish pushing Altina into Vantage range, but she's also going to get herself knocked out for trouble.
By these twin blades.
And since none of the rest of their team has Hardy Bearing, it should be pretty easy for her to carve her way through the rest of them.
By these twin blades.
Down goes Katria. And Kron.
Grant me strength.
And then Sarah should move in to finish things off.
By these twin blades.
Pretty good.
You have
From
my
here it should be
trust.
pretty easy to clean things up. We'll just move Altina back and give her a refresh on her
With
attack
utter
buff,
certainty.
and move her in to take down Byleth.
They
And
will
then Thor can
submit.
just move in and continue supporting her from behind the wall. Mira moves in first. She has less health to lose,
Grant me strength.
and then we just close things out with Rhea, who isn't actually going to get any damage reduction here.
Goddess, guide me.
That was a fun one. This match is going to be an interesting one to navigate. They've got a bit of a tricky setup here with a lot of threat range thanks to the Pathfinder that Dogger provides, and the rallies from Mooseball and Lysithea, along with 2 dances to make sure those rallies can continue moving forwards afterwards. And there are a lot of debuffs that you have to be careful of here, along with Mooseball's Domain of Flame, adding a solid bit of extra damage to the first hit that anyone makes. I've actually run into a lot of Lysitheas this week. They're kind of annoying for Altina, but this time I think we're actually going to have Altina tank her, instead of trying to get into Vantage range first. Part of the trick with this is actually just making sure that Altina is going to bait these rallies instead of letting them rally, while also not taking lethal damage from them. So we're going to get things started right away, and I need to actually be really careful not to give Altina any res buffs before we engage, since giving her res buffs would actually mean that Lysithea can't do enough damage per hit to avoid rallying, and she might end up getting danced into our backline instead, and that wouldn't be ideal. We're actually just going to start by having Altina wait in place and dancing her to make sure we're not taking any spike damage from this moonbow.
This'll be
And
fun.
then Yuri is going to foul play Altina and wait in place down here.
There is but
Then we'll
one
smite
future.
Ashura forward, or Altina forwards with Ashura. I kind of expected this to be a fake trap. It makes a lot more sense to just have a heavy trap and hex trap so that you don't end up blowing up your own front line.
You
And then
have my
Altina's just going
trust.
to plunk here on the defense tile, and we'll have Elamine nudge Ashura forwards. Should be safe here.
I
And
seek a
Thor is just
foe.
going to reposition Yuri out of the way of this tactic room. Let's see if I figured this out correctly. There should be a dance here first. Okay, it was secret. Yeah, and Mooseball actually does end up attacking. I didn't think he'd actually do enough true damage to attack, instead of
No backing down.
going in like that, but that's okay. He does a bit of damage, but it's not enough to actually put Altina into too much danger, even with these quads.
By these twin
Mostly
blades.
since Lysithea doesn't actually get the desperation, so from here, she should be just fine. Should be able to vantage her way through Saros,
By these twin blades.
and Odor,
Huh.
and then Plumeria, and Dogger after that. No, Dogger first.
Grant me strength.
There we go.
Yeah.
It's nice to see things play out according to plan. from here, we just want to corral Sigurd so that he's not going after anyone
This'll be fun.
who might be in trouble, and also make sure that he doesn't get himself killed before we're ready to end the match. We'll be able to do that pretty easily, I think, by just using Minion as his bait.
Consider it done.
We'll let Asher pick up our first Aether pot and move Altina over here. And now that he's nowhere near as annoying as they go. Nope, he just goes after Ninian, which is fine.
Yeah.
And from there we should be able to close things out. We'll just nudge Sherry forwards here and have Asher break this tactic room for us.
Where to,
We'll let
friend?
Yuri break the pot.
With utter
Move Altina
certainty.
over.
Yes,
And Denser.
you have
And
my
let her close
trust.
out the match.
No backing down.
This match is going to be a fun one near the end of the week. It's been a while since I've seen a maxed out Fallen Edelgard on a defense. She's still really spooky, although this setup doesn't actually let her transform on the first turn, which is a little odd. Bonus Week Leaf is getting in the way of that. They're also using a Catry on their defense, and, well, I think she's still okay, especially if you can Elemine proof her, but it's a bit of a gamble. If you do run into an Elemine, she's not going to do very much for your team. They do have some other pretty significant threats on their team though, including this speed-focused duo Crom, and this Summer Mia, who's using a very anti-Hector kit with this Lancebreaker and Fatal Smoke. The defense stacking she's doing is an interesting take. I don't know that it helps her survive against someone like a Fiorm, but I think that's the intent here. She also happens to be a rally trap in case you're trying to just bait this Tempest Zeros from all the way down here, and Sigurd can dance her from that point. While Change Fate is always something you need to worry about, and all of the pivots on their team are a great way to help their melee units actually just start getting in the way of you, and making a follow-up turn a lot trickier. I'm actually going to get things started right away on this match. I think this should be a pretty straightforward one once we get things going. We'll just start by nudging Altina forward onto this Bolt Trap, which, as expected, is fake.
There is but one
We'll let
future.
Asher move over here and open up this flag, then
You have my
move
trust.
Altina over.
No.
Dancer forwards onto this probably real heavy
Consider
trap.
it done.
Then we'll just move Thorin behind her to support. And with Katria false started, we don't really have to worry about very much here. Crom moves in first, but while he does hit hard, he can't double her before she knocks him out. And all he does is put her neatly into Vantage range to carve her way through the rest of their team. Cirrus has the least health, so he's the first one to go
By
forwards.
these twin blades.
And I think we'll see Edelgard get danced, yeah? Not that it's going to really let her do much here.
Yeah.
Although it will let Leaf pivot over onto this other defense tile after everything else is down for the count.
By these twin blades.
And they should just both move on to... Oh no, he went for the forest instead. Interesting. That was a pretty clean first turn, and now we'll need to be a little bit careful just to pick up these pots before we close things out. The Hardy Bearing on Leaf is fun, but he doesn't actually do very much damage to Altina, so we'll just move her down here and continue plonking while Yuri breaks our first pot. Then we'll smite him over and dance him
Yes.
to start getting over towards the second Aether pot. Although we are going to need to respect this tactic room, so we'll just have him open up this flag and let Thor sneak in behind the statue and continue buffing Altina. Yep, Leaf moves first. He does get to do some damage thanks to the Hardy Bearing, but it's not enough to actually finish Altina off. And, well, she hits him pretty hard there. And really all it ends up doing is making Edelgard easier to knock out for Altina. And from here we should be able to wrap things up. Yuri can actually ignore these hex traps thanks to his extra hit points and pick up the tactic room for us.
Why?
Then we'll just dance him. Move Thor out of the way.
Yes.
Smite him over to the right and let him snag our Aether pot. And then just move Altina in to close out the match.
Goddess, guide me.
Nice and clean. This match should be a fun way to close out the week with a bonus week Lilina on the defense. They're not using the life and death setup for her, which makes her special hit a little less hard, but the extra res she can get makes her a lot bulkier against magical opponents and can let her survive a combat you might not be expecting her to. This Farsave Bliss is also really impressive to see. She's a great Farsave tank actually, and gets extremely bulky with all of the def res stacking she has going. And combined with the threat range that the Dagger offers with Pathfinder can make this a tricky defense to hit and run. They also have a very merged up Thracer on the side here, who's a good complement to this Alina, especially combined with Dagger, since they can cover the blues that might normally be able to wall Alina out. And the Leaf in the back was the bonus mythic, with an Odor in the front to get danced by Azura. An Odor without debuffs is actually a lot more threatening than he might normally be, and he can hit pretty hard with this Brutal Shell. I'm actually not going to end up letting him have the Brutal Shell, but that's mostly just because I want to make sure that his Menace doesn't go off. And the Gifted Magic really isn't that big of a threat to Altina here. So we're just going to get things started right away and float Altina onto a real Bolt Trap. That makes things easy. And then we'll just dance Altina forwards and have her move in to pick off this Dagger. This is actually an extra fun trap for anybody who tries to test this Bolt Trap and hit and run, since this is actually using a Martyr skill, which won't get her distracted by any debuffs, and this healing tower doesn't heal 50 health, so she'd be able to move forward onto this defense tile to heal, which lets Azura dance her, and can activate the map from there. Then from here we'll just get Yuri into place to start reaching these Aether pots after we're done,
There is but one future.
and say go. Lilina should be coming very close to finishing Altina off here. Oh, and Odor actually moves first. Never mind.
Goddess, guide me.
And then Thracer too. I may have been miscounting how much damage she does here. Yep, Azura's not really getting anything
Goddess,
done,
guide me.
so we're just going down the health chain. Alyssa goes next.
Goddess, guide me.
It's kind of funny to see all of the non-hardy bearing units going before Lilina gets her shot. Oh, and yeah, I was very much overestimating how much she'd do. Oops. That's okay.
Grant me strength.
And then all we have left is Leaf. And that means it'll be very easy for us to clean things up here. We'll just have Yuri break the first pot and Canto back down,
No.
which lets us dance him.
Where to,
Let
friend?
him move in and grab her second pot, and we'll let Altina close out the week. This was another really fun week overall. It's great to get Altina back off the bench. I used to actually use her quite a lot on my offense teams. She's been a great Vantage sweeper and just kind of got eclipsed by Kronya once that came out. I'm looking forward to her remix. I think it'll be in January, and I'm hoping to pick up the last few merges for her then too. Next week's video might be shorter if I end up getting to record it at all. I'm going to be out of town for a little bit of the week, so won't have access to everything I usually do. I'm hoping I can though. It is Ash's bonus week, and I've been looking forward to getting to use her again as a carry. It should be another fun time. I do have a Discord channel if you'd like to hang out and chat. There's a link in the description, and there's also a Patreon link there too if you'd like to help support the channel. As always, I hope you've enjoyed the video, good luck with your own matches, and I'll see you next time.